The Glorpian hegemony had conquered dozens of worlds across three spiral arms of the galaxy. Their military doctrine was refined through centuries of successful campaigns against species at various stages of technological development. They considered themselves masters of the art of conquest, with a fleet organization and invasion protocols that had never failed. Admiral Cthar stood on the command deck of the flagship Stellar Dominator, his scaled skin glowing with the bioluminescent patterns that indicated pride and anticipation. Before him, a three-dimensional projection displayed their next target, a blue-green world designated as Planet 734, known to its inhabitants as Earth. Tactical assessment, Commander Vorel, Cthar ordered, his voice a resonant rumble through the chamber. Commander Vorel, the fleet's chief tactical officer, stepped forward. Unlike the Admiral's imposing physical presence, Vorel was slight of build, with analytical eyes that constantly scanned data streams through his neural interface. Planet 734 hosts a pre-space civilization, Admiral. Tech Level 3, primarily combustion and basic electronic technologies. They've achieved rudimentary space travel, but are confined to their immediate orbital vicinity. Military capabilities are fragmented into nation-states with minimal global coordination. Standard conquest protocols are recommended. Science Officer Linex added her observations from her station, her slender fingers manipulating holographic displays of biological data. The dominant species shows unremarkable biological traits. No significant natural defenses, no notable evolutionary advantages beyond basic problem-solving skills. Their physical capabilities are well below Glorpian standards. Cthar's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a confident azure. Proceed with standard protocol then. Deploy the 9th Invasion Division, the Unbroken, to establish a beachhead in a resource-rich, low-population area. Minimal resistance is expected. A wise choice, Admiral. Vorel agreed, though his own bioluminescence flickered with a hint of caution. The mountainous region on this northern continent should provide adequate isolation for initial operations while offering mineral resources worth extracting. Cthar dismissed the caution with a wave of his armored hand. The Unbroken haven't faced meaningful resistance in their last 8 deployments. I expect this primitive world will be secured within a standard cycle. Little did they know that the minimal resistance they were about to encounter would shatter centuries of Glorpian military doctrine in less than a planetary rotation. The Unbroken Division descended through Earth's atmosphere in stealth transport vessels, their entry masked from primitive radar systems by advanced energy fields. Their landing zone, a vast national forest in the northwestern region of the landmass, known to locals as North America. Commander Zextrau, ground force leader of the Unbroken, directed operations from the lead transport. Deploy in standard formation. Secure a 5-kilometer perimeter. Remember, this is a Class 3 species. They pose minimal threat, but maintain discipline. Glory to the hegemony. Glory to the hegemony, echoed his troops, armor-clad warriors standing over 7 feet tall, each equipped with plasma weapons and energy shields that had overwhelmed far more advanced civilizations than this one. As the Glorpian forces deployed across the forest, they were unaware that humans were already present in their landing zone. Sergeant Sarge Jenkins checked her compass and made a notation on her paper map. The weekend training exercise for Alpha Scout Unit, nicknamed the Mountain Wolves, was proceeding as scheduled. As a veteran of both Iraq and Afghanistan campaigns, Jenkins valued these training sessions more than her fellow guardsmen understood. Peace never lasted forever. All right, people, let's pick up the pace, she called to her unit of 12 National Guard reservists. We've got 5 more miles before we reach our overnight position. Technical Specialist Ben Carter adjusted his pack, the unit's communications gear adding extra weight to his load. In civilian life, he managed IT systems for a regional bank, a far cry from trudging through wilderness with 40 pounds of equipment. Sarge, I'm getting some weird interference on our comms, Carter said, frowning at his handheld device. It's like nothing I've seen before, almost like someone's broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. Probably just the weather, Jenkins replied, though her instincts were suddenly alert. Private Rodriguez, take point. Keep your eyes open. Private Miguel Rodriguez, a college sophomore studying engineering who'd joined the Guard to help pay for school, moved to the front of the formation. Unlike Carter's technical expertise, Rodriguez brought raw enthusiasm and quick thinking to the unit. This was only his third field exercise, but he was determined to prove himself. "Yes, Sergeant," Rodriguez replied, moving ahead with his rifle at ready position. Standard protocol, even for a training exercise. The first indication that something was wrong came 15 minutes later when Rodriguez signaled for the unit to halt and take cover. Jenkins quickly moved to his position. "What have you got, Rodriguez?" "Movement ahead, Sarge. Not animal. Too organized." Rodriguez pointed toward a clearing ahead. "And I know this sounds crazy, but I saw something glowing." Jenkins raised her binoculars. Through the trees, she could make out figures moving with military precision. But they weren't human, too tall, too fluid in their movements. And their armor, it seemed to shimmer with an internal light. "Holy shit," she whispered, years of combat experience not preparing her for what she was seeing. But her training kicked in regardless. "Carter, get up here. Everyone else, defensive positions now." Carter crawled forward as the rest of the unit spread out among the trees. "Tell me I'm not seeing what I think I'm seeing," Jenkins said, handing him the binoculars. Carter's face went pale. "Either we've stumbled onto the most advanced military tech I've ever seen, or—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Or we've got visitors," Jenkins completed grimly. "Try to reach command." Carter attempted to establish communications, but shook his head. "Nothing but static. They must be jamming us, intentionally or not." Jenkins made her decision quickly. "We observe and evade. No contact unless absolutely necessary. We need to get back to base and report this." But fate had other plans. As the unit began to move away from the clearing, a Glorpian scout patrol unexpectedly emerged from the brush directly in front of them. For a moment, both groups froze in mutual shock. Then a Glorpian soldier raised his weapon, and Private Rodriguez reacted on instinct, squeezing off 3 rounds. To everyone's surprise, the bullets struck a gap in the alien's armor at the neck joint. The Glorpian went down, emitting a high-pitched wail that echoed through the forest. "Scatter and regroup at Rally Point Bravo," Jenkins shouted as energy bolts began tearing through the foliage around them. "Carter, Rodriguez, with me." And thus began one of the most unexpected military engagements in human history. On the Stellar Dominator, Admiral Kthar was reviewing routine status reports when the first distress signal came through from the ground forces. "This is Commander Zekstral. We have encountered armed resistance. Request immediate tactical analysis and support." Kthar's bioluminescence flashed with irritation. "Commander Vorel, explain why a division that has subdued entire planets is requesting support against primitive natives." Vorel was already analyzing the incoming data, his expression growing increasingly concerned. "The natives appear to be employing unconventional tactics, Admiral. They've dispersed into the forest and are using the terrain to strategic advantage. They're primitives with projectile weapons." Kthar bellowed. "Order Zekstral to deploy heavy units and crush this resistance." More reports flooded in as the Glorpian forces attempted to engage the scattered human unit. The aliens deployed in standard formation, expecting their superior technology to quickly overwhelm the humans. Instead, they found themselves ambushed from multiple directions, with the humans firing at weak points in their armor and quickly relocating before the Glorpians could effectively return fire. Jenkins led her team through the dense forest where they held every advantage. Growing up in these mountains, and with combat experience in difficult terrain, she instinctively understood how to use the environment against a technologically superior force. "Rodriguez, aim for the joints in their armor," she instructed as they set up another ambush position. "Carter, see if you could do anything about their communications." Carter had been examining a small device he'd taken from a fallen alien. "Their tech is incredible, but it's still using electromagnetic spectrum for comms. If I can isolate the frequency patterns, using improvised methods, and his civilian expertise, Carter managed to create rudimentary interference with the Glorpian battlefield communications, causing further confusion among their forces. On the Stellar Dominator, Commander Vorel was becoming increasingly concerned as casualty reports came in. "Admiral, we've lost nearly 15% of our ground forces," he reported, his voice carefully controlled. "The natives are employing sophisticated guerrilla tactics and appear to be specifically targeting our armor weak points and sensor arrays." Kthar's bioluminescence had shifted to angry crimson patterns. "Impossible. Their weapons are primitive." "Primitive but effectively deployed," Vorel replied. "And they seem to understand our tactical formations better than they should." Science Officer Linex joined the conversation, her analysis of the incoming data showing concerning patterns. "Admiral, their response time suggests previous combat experience. Their tactics show adaptation to our technology at an unprecedented rate." "Are you suggesting these primitives have encountered our kind before?" Thar demanded. "I cannot rule it out," Linex replied cautiously. "There have been unconfirmed reports of scout vessels going missing in this sector over the past 2 centuries. Perhaps." Thar dismissed this with a growl. "Deploy mechanized units. I want these troublesome natives captured for interrogation." As night fell on Earth, the situation had deteriorated further for the Glorpian forces. The 9th Division, the vaunted Unbroken, had suffered nearly 30% casualties. Commander Zekstral had abandoned the standard deployment protocols and was now organizing a more defensive posture, but the damage to morale was severe. "I've never seen anything like it," he reported to the flagship. "They're everywhere and nowhere. They use these primitive projectile weapons, but they aim with uncanny precision at our vulnerabilities, and they move through this forest like ghosts." Jenkins and her team had managed to regroup with most of their unit at their designated rally point. 2 guardsmen were missing and 3 others were wounded, but they had inflicted disproportionate damage on the alien force. "Listen up," Jenkins addressed her tired team. "I know this situation is beyond anything we trained for, but you're all performing admirably. Carter, any luck with communications?" Carter had disassembled and modified their radio using components from damaged alien equipment. "I think I can punch through their jamming for short burst transmission. It won't be clear, but maybe enough to alert command that something's happening here." "Do it," Jenkins ordered. "Keep it simple. Unidentified hostile force, advanced technology, our coordinates." As Carter worked on the transmission, Jenkins and Rodriguez discussed their next move. "They're bringing in what look like vehicles," Rodriguez reported, hovering about 3 feet off the ground. "Probably heavier weapons." Jenkins nodded grimly. "We can't take those on directly. We need to split up again, keep them chasing shadows." She looked at the wounded. "Our priority is getting our people out and reporting what we've seen." Carter's makeshift communication device sparked as he activated it. "Sending now. Signal's weak, but..." The device suddenly emitted a high-pitched whine and died in a puff of smoke. "I think something got through. No way to know how much. It'll have to be enough," Jenkins decided. "Let's move out. Groups of 3. Evasive patterns. Rendezvous at emergency point Delta at 0600. But as they prepared to move, the forest around them suddenly illuminated with an eerie blue light. Non-lethal energy nets descended from Glorpian drop ships, while an aerosol sedative began dispersing through the area. "Gas!" Jenkins shouted, but it was too late. The fast-acting alien compound overwhelmed their systems within seconds, and darkness claimed them. Jenkins awoke in a sterile, silver-walled chamber. The light seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. She was lying on some kind of examination surface, still in her uniform, but with all equipment removed. Nearby, Carter and Rodriguez were similarly restrained, just beginning to regain consciousness. "Carter? Rodriguez? You all right?" she called. "Been better, Sarge," Carter groaned. "Think I preferred camping in the woods." Rodriguez simply nodded, his eyes wide as he took in their surroundings. A section of the wall suddenly became transparent, revealing 3 alien figures, the commanding officers of the Glorpian fleet. Though Jenkins couldn't know it, she was looking at Admiral Kthar, Commander Vorel, and Science Officer Linex. "Greetings, warriors of Planet 734, came a mechanical voice, apparently translated through some device. "You will answer our questions. Resistance is unnecessary and inadvisable." Jenkins fell back on her military training. "Jenkins, Sarah, Sergeant. National Guard identification number 867-53-0921. Kthar's bioluminescence pulsed with irritation. "We have no interest in your designation codes. You will tell us about your Special Forces unit and how you were prepared for our arrival." Jenkins blinked in confusion. "Special Forces? We're a National Guard unit on a weekend training exercise." The translation device emitted Kthar's bark of disbelief. "Your evasion tactics were far too advanced for ordinary troops. You targeted weaknesses in our armor that you could not possibly have known about without prior intelligence." Carter spoke up, unable to contain himself. "Look, we're literally part-time soldiers. I'm an IT manager. Rodriguez here is a college student. Sergeant Jenkins teaches high school physical education." This revelation caused visible confusion among the aliens. Linex moved closer to the barrier, examining them with intense scientific curiosity. "What is the meaning of part-time soldiers?" came the translated question. "National Guard," Jenkins explained, seeing no harm in basic information. "We're civilians most of the time. We train 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. We help during natural disasters, civil emergencies, that sort of thing." Vorel, who had been quietly observing, asked, "But your tactical proficiency, your combat experience?" Jenkins shrugged, as much as her restraints would allow. "I serve in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those were wars on our planet. But the rest was just basic training and instinct. You attacked us, we defended ourselves." The aliens conferred among themselves in their own language before Kthar addressed them again. "We will verify your claims." After the aliens left, Carter whispered, "They seem really confused about something." "Yeah," Jenkins agreed. "Almost like they expected us to be something we're not." What the prisoners couldn't see was the chaos unfolding in the Glorpian command center. Vorel had been cross-referencing their statements with intercepted Earth communications and analyzing the equipment recovered from the humans. "Admiral," Vorel reported, unable to keep the distress from his voice, "I've verified their claims. Their communication devices are indeed primitive. Their weapons are simple chemical-propelled projectiles. And I found recordings from before our attack, discussing ending weekend training and getting back for Sunday's game, and submitting homework on Monday." Kthar's bioluminescence had dimmed to a dull, disbelieving pulse. "This cannot be. They've inflicted 40% casualties on our elite division." Linex's analysis was equally disturbing. The biological scans show no genetic enhancements, no technological implants, no significant physiological advantages. They are, by all measures, baseline specimens of their species. Vorel assembled the final pieces of the puzzle, his voice dropping to a near whisper as he delivered his conclusion to Kthar in a private command chamber. "Admiral, all evidence suggests we have been fighting against merely a scouting unit of their reserve militia." Kthar's reaction was visceral, his bioluminescent patterns chaotically shifting through colors never before seen on a Glorpian commander. "Impossible. A weekend training unit? They decimated nearly half of our elite division." The implications were too horrifying to fully comprehend. If this was what their part-time, minimally trained forces could accomplish, what would their professional military be capable of? The command center fell silent as the realization spread among the senior officers. For the first time in the long history of the Glorpian hegemony, true fear had entered their hearts. In the emergency command meeting that followed, panic and heated debate dominated the discussion. "We must withdraw immediately," urged Vorel, presenting cold, analytical reasoning. "If these are merely their reserve forces, their professional military will likely possess capabilities we are unprepared to counter. We have no data on their true military potential." "Retreat? Before a primitive species?" objected a senior officer. "This is unprecedented." Linex presented her analysis of human history, based on data they had collected from Earth's information networks. This species has been engaged in near-constant warfare throughout their recorded history. They have developed and refined combat techniques through thousands of years of internal conflicts. Their adaptive capacity in battle exceeds anything in our records. She displayed images of human conflicts throughout history, from ancient battles to modern warfare. Their entire history has been an uninterrupted military exercise. While we cultivated a hegemony through superior technology, they forged their abilities in the crucible of perpetual combat. Thar, though humiliated, recognized the existential threat before them. Continuing with the standard invasion plan could lead to catastrophic losses, perhaps even total defeat, something that would not only end his career but potentially threaten the hegemony itself. "We will implement a strategic repositioning," he announced, using the Glorpian euphemism for retreat. This threat requires comprehensive reassessment. The question of what to do with the prisoners sparked another debate. Some advocated execution to eliminate witnesses, while others suggested using them as hostages or test subjects. Vorel proposed an unexpected alternative: release them. Their disappearance would likely trigger a stronger response from Earth. Furthermore, their return with an incomplete understanding of our capabilities could create confusion among their leadership. The uncertainty itself becomes a strategic advantage. Thar reluctantly agreed, seeing the logic in creating confusion rather than clarity among the humans. Jenkins, Carter, and Rodriguez were sedated once more and returned to a location near where they were captured, along with their basic equipment. They awoke disoriented, with fragmentary memories of their captivity. "Did that really happen?" Rodriguez asked, looking at his watch and discovering they'd lost nearly 18 hours. Before Jenkins could answer, they heard human voices calling through the forest. Search parties from their base, mobilized after receiving Carter's fragmented transmission, had been combing the area. Within hours, they were in a secure military facility, being debriefed by increasingly high-ranking officers as the implications of their encounter became clear. "You're absolutely certain they retreated?" asked a stern-faced general, the fourth to question them in as many hours. "Based on what we overheard during captivity, yes," Jenkins confirmed. "They seemed frightened when they realized we were just National Guard." "Frightened of a National Guard," the general mused, shaking his head in disbelief. "What does that tell us about their assessment of our regular forces?" The information was classified at the highest levels, but a global military mobilization began quietly and with unprecedented international cooperation. The remnants of alien technology recovered from the battlefield were distributed to research facilities worldwide. 6 months later, Earth was a changed planet. Defense budgets had skyrocketed. International military cooperation had reached levels never before seen. Technological development had accelerated dramatically, fueled by insights gained from the limited Glorpian technology recovered. The Alpha Scout unit had been officially disbanded, its members reassigned to specialized training roles. Jenkins, Carter, and Rodriguez had become reluctant experts on Glorpian tactics and technology. They lived dual lives now, continuing their civilian careers while also serving as consultants to the newly formed Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative. They carried the knowledge that the aliens could return at any time, potentially with a force large enough to overwhelm even a prepared Earth. During a rare moment of downtime, the three sat on the roof of the secure facility where they now spent most of their time, looking up at the night sky. "Do you think he'll come back?" Rodriguez asked, his former youthful enthusiasm tempered by experience. "Eventually," Jenkins replied, "but they'll find something very different waiting for them." Carter nodded in agreement. "We've learned more about military technology in 6 months than in the previous 50 years. Every nation on Earth is working together for once. All because they happen to land right on top of us," Rodriguez mused. "What are the odds?" "The smallest chance encounters change history," Jenkins said, her eyes still on the stars. "But next time, it won't be just one National Guard unit they have to worry about." Meanwhile, across the Gulf of Space, Commander Vorel reviewed the latest war simulations. Even with vastly increased forces, The probability of victory against a prepared and united Earth was uncertain and would come at an unacceptable cost. He studied the image of Earth on his display with a mixture of respect and fear. In his detailed report to the Glorpian High Council, he had included a final observation that would change Glorpian expansion policy forever. We came to conquer a primitive planet, but instead, we awoke a sleeping giant, a species whose bloody history has inadvertently forged them into the worst nightmare of any would-be invader. The true war may not have begun, but the horror of what we glimpsed will haunt the hegemony forever. The High Council voted unanimously to indefinitely postpone any invasion plans for Planet 734. They reclassified the threat level to extremely dangerous, requires extended study, and dispatched unmanned probes to observe Earth from a safe distance. Admiral Kthar was stripped of his rank, but Vorel was given the responsibility of leading the research group studying humans and their unexpected capabilities. On Earth, as nations cooperated in unprecedented ways to prepare their defenses, Jenkins often reflected on the ironies of the situation. Humanity's greatest weakness, its propensity for conflict, had inadvertently become its greatest strength against external threats. The endless wars that had divided them had also prepared them in ways they could never have anticipated. The universe is full of predators, she told her students during a tactical training session. But sometimes, without knowing it, you're the apex predator. And we've been sharpening our claws against each other for thousands of years. As both civilizations prepared for a confrontation that might never come, the greatest lesson had already been learned. Assumptions about strength and weakness based on technology alone could be fatally flawed. The Glorpian hegemony had conquered dozens of worlds with superior technology, but had never before encountered a species that had spent its entire history preparing for war against itself, creating the perfect accidental defense against the stars.